I just got the media invite for the first drive event for the Ford Ranger, the new 2024 Ford Ranger. And it got me thinking we should do some more comparison videos. I love doing these. I learn things, you learn things, we argue about it in the comments. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's a good thing. Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. And you may recall, if you follow this channel closely, and maybe you do, that back in May, I did a walk around of the new Ford Ranger 2024. It's been delayed because of the UAW strike and supply issues and all that kind of stuff that's going on in today's world. And I walked around it. So I checked it out. And you guys watched that video quite a bit. So I was pretty excited by the results of the video and by seeing the new Ford Ranger. And you may also remember that Jill and I, managing editor Jill Smith and I, done a lot of videos on the Chevy Colorado, the ZR2, the Trail Boss, Z71, first drive events. We've done a lot of stuff. And so I've become really familiar with that truck too. And I thought, let's do the comparison. So on pickuptrucktalk.com, I did a comparison story. I got specs that are really interesting and some shocking price differences. I'll also go to the Ford site and the Chevy site, and I'll kind of show you what I'm looking at when I'm thinking about these two trucks in kind of comparison, fighting mano a mano. So let's look at the website. It's on, like I said, pickuptrucktalk.com. I'll put a link of this article in the description and pin it to the comments. Because again, I've got a lot of good feedback from you guys. You guys like this kind of stuff. So my job, give you stuff you like. Pretty easy. So this is the 2024 Chevy Colorado versus the Ford Ranger. They have made a couple changes to the 2024 Colorado. First, they got rid of the mid-engine tune. There's now only high tune and the base work truck tune. And we haven't really seen a whole lot of changes to the Ford Ranger yet because, again, delayed until it's coming out. So it hasn't hit the marketplace yet. So when you compare these two, there's some very basic things. First of all, they all are crew cab only. They all have a 5-foot bed, and they all have turbocharged engines. Let's just get out of the way. They all do. That's what the market's going to these days. We do have some different suspension differences, but I'll get to that more in another video when I have them side by side or be able to compare them better. Okay, let's talk about the first thing that stands out to me is that the Ford Ranger is actually more expensive to start. And when you look at these trims, look at like a base XLT, which is the base trim, XL's work truck. Look at just basically a two-wheel drive, $36,110. Look at a Colorado with the LT trim, and we'll do two-wheel drive as well. I've been kind of playing around with this a little bit. Is you look at the base trim, base engine, which is going to be this one. This one has the work truck tune. You have 34,545. So the Ranger is actually a couple $1,000 more to start with. However, timeout. That's not the whole story. So the difference here is while there is a price difference, and in the ZR2 as well, the ZR2 is nearly $10,000 less than the Ford Ranger Raptor. That's not the whole story. For example, the Colorado does not come standard with some options like cruise control. You have to add cruise control to the Colorado. This gets crazy because they actually ask you to add multiple packages to get there. So we're gonna do this more on the build and price. But when you compare a consumer base grade like Colorado LT versus Ranger XLT, the Ranger is actually $2,700 less because the XLT comes with adaptive cruise as part of a $1,560 technology package. Adaptive cruise control features you want. Meanwhile, the Colorado has to add multiple packages and $4,390 to the price. So when you start adding the options, they become more comparable. The Ford Ranger on paper looks more expensive. That's my point here. On the exterior, they both have a pretty strong chiseled look, right? So the Ford Ranger has actually incorporated the same bow tie that the F-150 has because they found out globally, people really like the look of the F-150. So they're trying to make that global look. And this is a global truck. They've had in Australia and Europe for years, for about a year now. And so we have this look to it, right? The Colorado has a similar kind of chiseled look. We have a little bit wider track. We have a little bit wider stance. We have a little bit taller because we have lift kits on these things, bigger tires. So we're all big, strong off-road looking trucks these days. So the idea of an inexpensive work truck, base kind of not really stylish looking truck is kind of gone. The market now is saying, I want more unique look. I want it to be stronger, more chiseled. Okay. And then we look at the inside the cabin. What's interesting is both trucks have been significantly refreshed inside the cabin. I had to find this one photo of this, but I'm going to get to the specs in a minute because I didn't realize this until I did the spec sheet. The Ranger is actually quite a bit smaller than the Colorado. Quite a bit. It depends on your viewpoint on that word, but this is the Colorado interior with that kind of horizontal screen. We have the shift to the right. We have the drive modes, the electronic parking assist or park brake. We have your controls there, start, stop. When you look at the Ranger interior, the best photo Ford media site had, we have this guy backing up with the cameras. We have a more vertical screen. We have a small shifter to the left next to the driver. It's smaller. It's more like a gadget kind of thing. Like this remote control for my heater. It's like this size, like a bigger mouse for your computer would be. And so that's the interior. Those are differences there. Technology differences. Okay, so talking about the center screen, I like the way that the Colorado looks. It doesn't look like it dominates the center stack. It's kind of small there in the corner. You still have the keys down below for selecting different things. With the Ford Ranger, it is this vertical screen is just huge, massive. And so it dominates the center stack. But you get better view visibility through the cabin because you can see over top of that screen versus the Colorado, that screen comes up a little bit, kind of even with the dash. Does it matter in real life? I didn't see any difference when I was driving the Colorado, but I can see people talking about how this additional above the dash may stand out to them. And the Ford Ranger, it's much lower. So you have a little more visibility, is what I would anticipate. Again, at least spend more time with the Ranger. Other differences, other key differences between the trucks. First of all, the shifter we talked about. The shifter for the Colorado is a standard shifter. It's taller, goes to the right of the passenger. The Ford shifter is down and to the left next to the driver, and more like a mouse shifter. Some people like the upright shifter, some people don't. People get used to it. I've talked to many Colorado owners and Canyon owners who've gotten used to that shift to the right. I still don't like it. I don't like it. I've driven it many times. I don't love it. I love the shifter next to me, the driver. I want the shifter next to me. Personal preference, fine. Looking at the light switch or lack of it, the Colorado has a light switch built into the infotainment system. The Ranger has a dial. Now, does that matter? Sort of. If you're a person that always leaves your lights on auto, you don't care. If you're a person that has to turn your lights on and off because you're military bases or parts of California or parts of the Northwest that have to turn them on in canyons and things because of fog, it's kind of a pain in the butt. And I tried to turn it on doing about 55 miles an hour through the canyon in Colorado, in Colorado, in California, in a canyon. Wow, that's a lot of words. And it was distracting to get that to work because I'd never used it before. So maybe over time you get used to it, but it's nice just to turn a dial. Then there's the engine lineup. Basically, the Colorado comes with two tunes: work truck tune and high output tune. That's it, right? But the Ford Ranger comes with three different engines. Now, does that really matter? I don't know. People like choices. So if you like choices, Ford Ranger has different options. Now, the 3-liter V6, we'll find out here in a little bit, is only for the Ranger Raptors. You can't really get that one. That one kind of goes away. You have the 2.3 and 2.7 for the Ford Ranger, and the 2.7, we haven't heard any numbers yet. We haven't been announced yet. So we're delayed on that. So really the Ranger right now, as of today, Wednesday, January 17th at 9:50 a.m., we have one engine choice for the Ford Ranger. Now, the last difference I found was the four-wheel drive, or excuse me, two different things. Automatic rear differential on the Colorado is the G80 locker. It's well known through GM, been there for decades. Versus the Ford Ranger, you have electronically controlled rear differential, so you can press the buttons. The ZR2 has a front differential, and I think the Ranger Raptor has a front as well. You're going to kill me in the comments on that one, just off the top of my head. There's also a four-wheel drive auto setting for the Colorado. So if you're driving along and the roads are kind of questionable, you can put it in auto four-wheel drive, and if it anticipates slippage, it'll engage four-wheel drive for you. In the Ranger, nope, they don't do that. Ford just doesn't do that in this Ford Ranger, and so you don't have that feature. Looking at the key specs, this is what really got my attention. So we talked about price. You can see the initial starting price differences. We talked about why that is, options and things. We have different trims. We have crew cab. The bed, that's interesting. The bed is 2 inches shorter on the Ford Ranger. I didn't realize that. Fuel requirement, regular 87, 89, 85 octane, whatever. For the premium, for the Raptor, you have to have the premium fuel to get all those horsepower and torque numbers for the Raptor. Fuel economy, the numbers are fairly close. There's not a huge difference, I guess. And to me, in real world driving, you'll see a little bit better in highway for that as for the Ford Ranger. That may be a different big deal for you if you're commuting quite a bit. I think that has to do with the fact that most of the Colorados have a lift on them, and the aerodynamics are against it. Looking at the two-wheel drive numbers, again, 1-2 mile per gallon a little bit differently. I think consumers don't always care about the 1 or 2 mile per gallon. Manufacturers care a lot about it. But if fuel economy is your thing, and you have to have a truck with good fuel economy because you are commuting or you really care about this or whatever, Ford Ranger has better fuel economy. We have the engines we talked about. The Ranger is the Raptor only for the 3-liter V6. The 2.7 liter, by the way, still to be determined, like I said earlier. Maybe too fast, but I said it earlier. Just hit the 0.75 playback speed on the video. You'll catch up. Looking at horsepower and RPMs, in this case, Looking at the high trim level, the higher output or the work truck output, I kind of put work truck WT next to it. Even though you can get an LT with it, I get it. Just stay with me here. 430, 430, 310, 315. I mean, the numbers are pretty close as far as looking at the 2.7, 2.3. I don't see a lot of difference there. I think you'll find that one may be a little bit faster off the line, or one may roll tires a little bit differently. I think when you're passing in passing situations, which really matters to me, passing speed, we'll see how that works out as the more I drive these. We do have an 8-speed automatic transmission for the Colorado and a 10-speed for the Ford. Ford has just gone all 10-speed across the board. Wheelbase, interesting again, shorter. The Ford Ranger, shorter. Length, Ford Ranger, shorter. Width, Ford Ranger, narrower. Height, Ford Ranger, shorter. You get what I'm getting at here? And it really surprised me. I didn't actually realize this until I put these numbers together. Approach angle, departure angle is your off-road angles. You look at the numbers are fairly close across the board, full drive. ZR2 Raptor, the ZR2 front bumper is a little bit different, creating more front departure angle, or front approach angle, depart front. Headroom. Raptor Ranger's got a little more headroom, but Ranger's shorter in height. So it's a cab. So not taller cab, just taller height, just bigger cab. Looking at the legroom, interesting because this happens a lot with people asking about rear seat passenger legroom, which is non-existent for most midsize trucks. But in this case, the front legroom is almost 1.5 inches shorter on the Ford Ranger. Shoulder width room, about the same. Hip room, actually, hip room's more on the shorter Ford Raptor. That's interesting. Or Ford Ranger. I would say Raptor. Ford Ranger. Okay, looking at the gas tank size, it's 21.4, 18.8. I need to add a note here. It's 20.03 gallons for the Ranger Raptor. You have a little bit more gas tank with the Ranger Raptor. Looking at the curb weight, the Ranger Raptor is quite a bit less. It doesn't weigh nearly as much as the Chevy Colorado. It's interesting. Max payload, then you would assume, is higher, which it is in the Ford Ranger. And towing is about 7,500 pounds both ways. So what I'm saying here is when you go to buy, say, a consumer level, I'm just going to get an XLT, don't need to do Lariat, anything crazy, and I start my build. There we go. And I go through the options here, and you see the powertrain, full drive. I don't have the 2.7 available yet, and I don't have it in I don't believe it comes in the XLT. Maybe it'll be a Lariat above. Looking at this stuff, electronic locking rear axle, I can option that. But the equipment package here, this is the one I thought about. 10-way power driver seat, heated front seats, power sliding rear window, the center stack. Okay, so if we add the XLT high equipment group, I'm looking at this. 10-way power adjustable seats, 8-way power front seats, heated front seats, sliding rear window, 12-inch in center stack, so that 12-inch screen versus I think it's like a 10-inch screen. Dual zone electronic climate control, which it's a nice package. But what's interesting is you add this, you lose XLT standard discount. It's actually a $500 discount they're giving you on that truck. So it's actually $1,445 now for the upgrade. A little sneaky. But looking at the technology package, adaptive cruise control, your front parking sensors, the 360-degree camera, which is a big deal for overlanders and people camping, navigation. And so if we add this to the package, $1,560. And then if we go down and add the advanced towing, you can add advanced towing with towing pack. So I can add these two together. Trailer towing, trailer brake controller. Those are really cool things if you're towing anything at all. It's handy. The Pro Trailer Backup Assist, really handy if you don't tow very often, or you're like me, you have a single axle trailer that you look at darn thing in a jackknifes. It's a handy feature. I get it. Oh, I can do it. I've been towing for years. Real men know how to back up stuff. I totally get. I understand. I'm with you. Fine. But I think it's handy for most people. And why not? If you're going to buy it, why not get it? So if I add the technology package and I add adaptive cruise control, and I go down to the bottom and I just say, hey, I have this stuff. My total vehicle price is going to be $44,440. Okay. If I go to Chevy Colorado and I go four-wheel drive and I go LT with that engine choices popped up. If I just keep the colors the same and I go right to packages and start looking at stuff, we're looking at these convenience package. Well, here you got to add convenience package 2 to get the power adjustable seat and to get the remote start. And then you get, that's more comparable, seat lumbar, remote start, rear view camera, wireless charger, outside adjustable mirrors, heated safety passenger, and that engine. And if you select that, and then you have to add 7 more options. It makes you add 7 more options to get that because you have to add all this other stuff. So I added options: heated driver and passenger seats, the power lumbar, the mirror, those different options. You add all that stuff together, and then you have a total price increase, right? And if you want to add the locking rear differential plus the brake controller, that's 949. That's 5 different options. And what's sneaky is it says it's 945. Then you add it, and it actually says price change 1,095 because you got to make sure you have the better amp alternator and all kinds of stuff going on for towing purposes. So you start adding that. Then you add the adaptive cruise control to make it apples to apples with the Ranger. And you add 4 options, remove 1 option. I guess what's the option we're adding? There's 4 added packages. Remove cruise control because you add adaptive cruise control. So, okay, we add all that stuff. And then convenience package 3 is the driver's seat. It includes 2 cup holders in the rear seat. This is ridiculous. Adjustable heated seats. The driver's seat back mat pocket is now an option. That is ridiculous. Jet black. You have the power mount bed, or the power in the bed. You have the heated steering wheel. You have the volt supply, the tires, all that kind of stuff. LED headlights. So let's say I don't believe the Ford has all that stuff, but let's say you just add that for the heck of it, or let's check the price first of all. So the price without that is going to be $43,565. So again, we're getting more and more comparable. And if I add the last convenience package, because I want driver's seat back mat pocket, because that's cool, I'm at that same price point, $45,835. So while it looks like the Ford Ranger is more expensive on initial look, when you actually start breaking down the options and things, it's not. So Chevy Colorado, you have to add more options and more things to get a comparable truck to Ford Ranger. You do have a little wider width. You have a taller cabin. You have a little bit longer wheelbase, less room inside. Ford Ranger, overall shorter wheelbase, narrower, not as high, but inside the cabin space, you have a lot more room. Now, you don't have any lifts with the Ford Ranger versus Chevy Colorado. Those are 2 different things. The biggest tire in 33 for the Ford Ranger Raptor gives a little more ground clearance, but there's no standard factory lift for the Ford Ranger. Appearances, different things that vertical versus that. So I think it's interesting how comparable they are when you actually start adding options and things. And like I said, I was pretty shocked how much smaller the Ford Ranger was versus Chevy Colorado. There you go. There are my thoughts, these 2. I can't wait to drive the Ford Ranger and get more details on that. What do you guys think? Put your comments down below. Be curious to your thoughts. As always, make sure you check videos over here. Website down below as well, pickuptrucktalk.com. I'll put a link to that story in the description and pin the comment. So I just want to say thanks for watching, and I will see you down the road.